You had a great tweet that I wanted to share in regards to Trump's peace plan. You write, the Trump 20-point plan is not the end of the occupation, apartheid, and genocide. It is the next phase of the occupation, apartheid, and genocide. Trump learned much from his mafia mentor, Roy Cohn. This includes the mafia tactic of repeatedly beating a shopkeeper down and then offering to save him by taking over the store, only to then bleed the store dry of its resources. In this, Netanyahu is Trump's psychotic neighborhood hitman, and Tony Blair is his pathetic Fredo. But their scheme will certainly fail, and hopefully they will pay for their crime. So say more about this, please.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the dynamics that led to Trump's 20-point plan, it was beating the Palestinians for 2 years of genocide, preceded by 57 years of occupation, preceded by 100 years of colonization. And that beating is being perpetrated by the United States with its Israeli allies and with the complicity of other states as well in the West and in the region. And then you walk into a totally devastated moonscape where people are dying of wounds, dying of hunger, dying of thirst, dying of disease, dying of bombs and bullets. And you say to them, I'm going to help you out now. Here's a peace plan. All you have to do is to turn over your entire land to me, the mafia don. And then you strut around saying that you have reached an agreement with these people. And if you read the terms of Trump's plan, you see that it is loaded with just bald colonialism, right? I mean, it includes a control of Gaza's resources in the hands of an imperial body that we have not seen since the 19th century, which he wants to call the Board of Peace, but which is in fact just a colonial economic, securitization is going to be imposed under this plan externally by the United States and other complicit countries, right? And you can see in this 20-point plan, you can see reflected Trump's earlier threat to own Gaza and to establish a kind of Gaza Riviera for his private enjoyment and gain, right? Gaza is going to be ruled by this colonial body headed by Donald Trump himself, and with another prominent place on the body held by this disgraced UK politician, Tony Blair, war criminal as well. That body is supposed to handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza with the so-called Trump Economic Development Plan, right? Positioning people like Trump and Jared Kushner and Tony Blair to control all the resources that they're going to try to bring in from the Gulf and from European donors with no oversight. I mean, the possibility of staggering levels of corruption, I think, is self-evident. But also, what it sets up is the external control and extraction and exploitation of Palestine's resources, economic resources, by these colonizers, right? I've written that this is reminiscent of the eight nation invasion of China in 1900, right? Where all these Western imperial forces got together and invaded China. They want to do something similar here with a kind of proxy occupation. So if you look at this thing, it is pure bald imperialism. It's the story of King Leopold of Belgium, who made the Congo his personal real estate, right? And this is the kind of thing that Trump is envisaging in the 21st century. It's just Western imperial arrogance, and it's being imposed at the threat of further genocide after a genocide has been perpetrated, and they're being told, take this plan. This is that we're offering you an out. We're offering you peace. It's not. This is extortion. This is imperialism. This is not peace.
You said how South Africa was seen as a part of the West, much as Israel is seen as part of the West. And there is this debate um, among Israel critics, or just, I mean, among scholars, about the wag the dog debate, right? Whether or not Israel uses the United States and makes it act against its own self-interest. And obviously people like Mearsheimer and Steve Waltz, John Mearsheimer and Steve Waltz, who wrote the book, The Lobby, believe this. And then there's others who say that Israel was created as a colonial outpost, and people like even, basically, Joe Biden say that, not critically, obviously. Um, what what is it? Is it both of those things at the same time? Did it start out as a colonial outpost in which Israel was being used by the United States, but now the United States is being used by Israel? Is it something in between? Is there like a feedback loop?
Well, I think this is what I always say to this question. It's both. It clearly started out as a colonial outpost by the British, who then handed the colonial baton to the Americans to be, the headquarters, the metropole of the colony. So it clearly started out that way, but through decades and decades of corruption, and Katie, in the country in which you and I live, political corruption is legal. So one of the unique things about the United States of America is that political corruption is legalized, and billions of dollars are poured into buying policy. That's what happens here. And so you've got now a situation in which the Congress is absolutely captured, in which the State Department is captured, in which the Defense Department is captured, in which the presidents, the two parties are captured by lobbies who do this very openly, captured by billionaires who are Zionists and who are deeply invested in the cause. I mentioned the Adelsons and others, captured by corporations, the owners of which share the same ideology and make money from this project this colonial project in the Middle East. So what's happened over time is that they've become the same people, right?
Mhm.
The tail wagging the dog, or the dog wagging the tail. There's only one dog, and they've become the same people, and they are like-minded, and their economic interests are intertwined, and their political interests are intertwined. So I think, on the one hand, you know that there's no doubt that there is a desperate need in the United States for people to free their institutions, from the presidency all the way down to university administrations and local boards, from the corruption of money, including the corruption that comes from Israel proxy groups in the United States. No doubt about it. And there is a need to dismantle this empire, this imperial. I always say that when I was at the UN, the one word you never heard in the corridors of the UN was the I word, imperialism, even though it
Mhm.
was the most dominant force in everything that was happening, whether it was in the peace and security pillar of the organization, the development pillar of the organization, the human rights pillar of the organization. The most dominant force was this force of imperialism, of empire, which has been the bloodiest force in the history of the world. So that also needs to be dismantled. We need to move away from. I mean, and it's not up to anyone. I mean, the motion of the world is toward multipolarity, right? And the hope is that that multipolarity will come with multilateralism, that we won't develop, other empires, competing with each other, but that will work on the basis of norms and standards in a way that is multilateral. Sadly, the UN, where I spent, 32 years of my life, often was, on the good side, often was a check on imperial power, but too often it became an extension of empire, and especially in the political side of the United Nations, which explains its terrible failures during the genocide in Palestine.
Well, as always, Craig, you have a real way with words, and I'm very excited to see you in Istanbul, and very grateful for the invitation to attend, and also very grateful that you helped put this together. So, as always, very inspiring talking to you, and best of luck. And I'll see you soon, or I will have seen you soon by the time people are watching this.
I'm so happy that you're going to be in Istanbul for this important, I think, historic convening. So, and thanks for having me on. Always a joy to talk to you.
Of course. Bye.
Bye bye.